I'll be en route.
In the last decade, cops have busted over 1,000 methamphetamine labs in the state of Utah. But in putting themselves in harm's way to serve and protect the public, they have also been exposing themselves to a hidden killer, the meth lab itself.
The whole meth cop and their exposure has forever changed my life. I lost my husband because of his exposure to meth. My husband put himself on the line every day, and he loved what he did. He did it with a passion.
81 police officers in Utah have either died, have terminal illness, or are extremely sick. And the one common denominator in every one of these health situations is the officer spent large amounts of time in a drug lab.
We as cops, we put our lives on the line. We put our health and safety on the line every day. And one of them is we make a conscious decision to go in on a meth lab.
Chemicals can stay in carpet and walls and in the air, and a lot of times people are breathing this stuff. A lot of the different kinds of things that fall on the ground, and we walk in and it kicks up the dust and different things like that.
I started having acid reflux, heartburn, acid reflux almost every night. The headaches were every day. Spasms were sometimes several times a day, and this went on for quite a few years.
The worst symptoms when I started, I think, would have to be the joint pain and the lack of sleep. It was just wearing me out.
I went from 46 years of age, running half a marathon, to where I couldn't hardly get up and make it to the toilet in the morning.
A lot of fatigue, a lot of headaches, a lot of your concentration, loss of concentration and memory.
My heart would race, and I would feel like it was going to come right out of my chest at times.
And then the headaches, acid reflux, irritability came after that, and then depression.
Everything bothered me. My wife would ask me just an easy question in passing, and I would get angry with her.
And I started thinking that maybe it was the stress from the job that was causing all of the physical problems that I was having, and so I decided to retire. And I did, and after 6 months, nothing changed. I still had the headaches, I still had the spasms, I still had the acid reflux. Nothing was any better.
I was willing to try anything. I was sick of being sick. I wanted to get back to the kind of life I was used to living.
When I first heard about the program, I was probably a little bit skeptical. And then the more I heard about it, truthfully, I thought, you know, if there's a possibility that this could help make me feel better, then it would be worth the time.
Some of the things I started noticing almost immediately was I was able to sleep. Sleep a little bit longer. I was able to get to sleep on my own without medication.
Within the first 3 or 4 days, I was feeling noticeably different.
You're getting your body back to where it should be. You're giving your body what it needs and getting rid of the things that you were exposed to.
What this program or process does is that it raises the metabolic rate with the exercise and the nutritional support and the sauna with the heat.
And by the time the program was done, I wasn't having the spasms, and the headaches had gone away.
The biggest thing I noticed is my knees and my elbows and my hips all are pain-free. I wake up in the morning at 7 o'clock after getting 8 hours of sleep. I bounce right out of bed and I'm ready for the day.
I did notice I had more energy. I mean, I was out doing a lot more stuff. I was out playing, basketball, doing my yard work again, where before I just couldn't do it.
I just noticed a great difference in my overall health. You know, my acid reflux went away and I'm sleeping better without having to have sleeping pills. I didn't realize how far down I was until I got on this side, and I truly have my life back and feel well.
And when I got out of the program, first thing my wife told me is, you're back. And you kind of sit there and
how does one calculate the value of a high-quality police officer with 10, 15, 20 years of experience? You can't. It is valuable to the community, and again, the amount of resources we're going to dedicate to try and get them to give us back a few more years is well worth it.
Sometimes you just have to look outside the box for that investment and that trust and go for it. And sometimes it has great paybacks, and I think this is one that has great paybacks.
I am so impressed with the success of the Utah Meth Cop project. It's amazing to me how much it's turned lives around. It's taken police officers who've been literally handicapped and really unable to do their job and put them back on the street working for us.
The Hubbard detox method, it works. There's no doubt about it, it works. And I hope the word will spread. I hope people will step up and give money. The legislatures and city councils and county commissions will see the benefit of this and make the treatment available to every officer who needs it.
Hi, I'm Steve Murphy, and this is the Insider Exclusive, live from Salt Lake City at the law firm of Siegfried and Jensen and the Utah Meth Cops Project. It's my great pleasure to introduce the Attorney General of Utah, Mark Shurtleff, as well as Sandra Lucas, who is the founder and the project director of the Utah Meth Cops Project. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to us about this program.
This program came about because of a great need. Cops were being exposed and are still being exposed, in fact, to chemicals in meth lab, and those are highly toxic chemicals. And they end up getting sick. And some of them, in fact, have died because of that exposure. And I became aware of this plight, if you will, because of Mark and the fact that he had spoken to officers and knew what was going on, and he told me about it. And I was involved with a detoxification program out of New York that was helping Ground Zero rescue workers. We brought it here. We found that officers were interested in participating, and that's how it all started.
And it's quite unusual for the Attorney General of the state to get involved with something like this, isn't it?
I think so, but you know, when I came into office, I did something that I didn't think I'd be doing, and that is attending the funerals of police officers. 13 now, since I've been in office, killed in the line of duty. And you know, police officers, they understand, and their families, that they may pay that ultimate sacrifice, but not a lot of them, I think about that they might become sick because of their jobs and unable to perform their duties, and it affects them at home, and it's like a lifetime problem.
Right.
And so when we went after meth labs in Utah, we led the nation in meth labs per capita when I came into office.
There were more meth labs here in the state of Utah.
Yeah.
In Mormon country.
Extraordinary.
Wow.
And working with federal, state, local officers in this comprehensive program, we had a 98% reduction. There was a price to that, and there had been for many years, with police officers going in and busting these meth labs without adequate protection. They didn't know how toxic the substances were in those places.
When they used to go and bust some of these labs, what did they do? They just went in there with no protective gear over their face or anything, right?
When you're going in on a bust, you're always concerned that there's weapons in there, because drugs and guns go together.
Right.
And so you really can't go in a big old bulky suit and for your own officer safety. And so there were all these horrible chemicals, and they got into their systems, and they became sick. And as Sandra said, we've lost some police officers, young, healthy, no history of cancer from these fast-growing cancers, and it just breaks my heart. I mean, we do something about that. Treatment for the Meth Cops Project does not cure cancer.
Yes.
We don't take officers who are diagnosed, but a whole host of other respiratory illnesses that affect your job performance and your individually can be cured by getting these substances out of the body.
How long is the program when a cop goes into the program?
The average is about 34 days. We've had officers there longer. In fact, we had an officer who ended up being in there 51 days. But I would say the average is about 34, and we've seen some amazing things come out of their system. I mean, I remember one day at the very beginning when we started this, walking into the sauna, and the smell in there was really strange. And it wasn't like regular sweat. You know, these guys end up sitting in a sauna, so obviously they sweat.
Yeah.
And I asked, what is this? And they said, what you are smelling here is a meth lab. That is exactly what a meth lab smells like. And we've seen that again and again and again with the officers who've gone through the program. We've seen literally particles come out of their tear ducts. One officer had brown, blackish substance come out on his arms and chest. You know, they'll get very ill sometimes,
Right.
flu-like symptoms for literally a week, vomiting, diarrhea, as these chemicals start coming out of their system. So it's pretty amazing.
What is this detoxification program? It's the Hubbard
Correct.
detoxification. What did describe that?
The Hubbard detox, it was originally put together by L. Ron Hubbard, who's the founder of the Church of Scientology, but the way we use it is in a secular fashion.
Thank God there's people like you, and thank God there is an Attorney General who cares a lot about the people.
Indeed. He
you
made
know.
the difference, and without him, this would have never happened.
Can I just say, though, that it takes money. We don't. The one key is we're not going to charge cops to help them get better. And we've been successful. Sandra's very good at approaching the legislature and getting some funding through the legislature, that's state and now some federal money.
Right.
But it's still not enough, and we always are looking for ways to raise money and asking people to, you know, cops are out there putting their lives on their line, and they're sick, and,
Sure.
and we owe something back. Help these cops out.
One of the big fundraisers you have is Mitch Jensen of the law firm of Siegfried and Jensen, and we're going to have him on right now so we can talk a little bit about raising more money for the program. It's my great pleasure to introduce Mitch Jensen to the show. Welcome to the show, Mitch.
Thank you.
Money for the program is always a big issue. And when we talked a little bit before the program about all the money that goes into diversion programs, right?
Right.
For people who have drug and alcohol problems, who commit crimes and that sort of thing, it must be in the millions of dollars, right?
Oh, nationwide, hundreds of millions probably.
So,
not enough.
we have law enforcement officers who are risking their lives, exposed to these dangerous chemicals, some of whom have died, some of whom have permanent respiratory problems, correct?
Right.
And now veterans included in this. So how can we raise more money? How can we create a better awareness? What should people do, Mitch?
Well, we've got a lot of businesses who have an interest to protect the public servants and to help them. And in our experience, since we've been asked to get involved in this, the business associates and people that we've been involved in charitable work with are very interested. They're very unaware of what's going on. So the first thing is awareness.
Right.
And it takes money to make people aware. And being a marketing law firm, we have partners, marketing partners, CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox. And so we twist their arm. We say, we want you to be involved. And gladly, they're happy to get involved.
Mm-hmm. Since you've been Attorney General, I think you mentioned earlier, there's been a 98% reduction in the number of meth labs in the state of Utah.
That's right.
That's amazing.
We've been very successful in that, and then we needed to, the next step is to help people who are addicts. In fact, that's how I first became aware of this Hubbard method, was to find programs that were successful in helping people rehabilitate.
Right.
And the detox method is part of that rehabilitation I was very impressed with, and that's when we started talking about, well, if it works for someone who's been using meth, how about someone who has all these illnesses because they busted meth labs?
How did this first come to your attention to begin with?
Talking to Sandra, really just working up at the legislature. She was up there on a number of issues, and she invited me to go and look at the Narconon program in Oklahoma for purposes of rehab for drug addicts. And then we started talking in this vein, and she mentioned, well, you know, are you aware what happened after September 11th with this same program going in there that has successfully treated hundreds and hundreds of first responders? I said no, and so I want to go see. So together we went to Ground Zero, to the clinic there, and talked to cops who were, you know, New York cops. They're cynics. They're like, I'm going to sit in a sauna and sweat and get better. I don't believe it. And then they do it, and it turns their lives around. And so, well, then that can work here. And so we started bringing some of those cops here to talk to our cops.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've treated 60-plus officers, and they're successful.
Yeah, I read there was like 67 or 68 officers that have successfully gone through the program, correct?
Yes.
Now, of course, officers now have a lot more protective gear when they go into maybe drug-infested areas, right?
That's correct, but you know, they were busted meth labs in California from the late 70s, early 80s, and without protective gear. There are thousands of police officers and other first responders who are sick, who need to be treated nationwide. You know what? We've been to the Pentagon. We've spoken to national groups of officers. They're all interested, but it's going to take money and it's going to take partnerships. and we're just now starting to move forward with that.
Yeah, and I really want to bring that awareness about the diversion programs again, because there's a lot of money that goes into those programs, and here you have law enforcement officers who are risking their lives, right? They get shot too, couldn't they?
Absolutely.
And they suffer these respiratory problems, and this is a great way to help them out. Well, I'm glad that your law firm, as well as your office, has seen fit to make this a priority, and I want to thank you very much for being on the show, Mitch.
Thank you.
I'm very pleased to have with us today on the program the chief of the Salt Lake County DA's office, Stu Smith. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You are actually a police officer who's gone through Sandra's program, haven't you?
I am.
So you can tell firsthand experience, what are the reasons that people have to go through a program like this?
Well, of course, what the program is doing is trying to detoxify officers that have been exposed over time to chemicals, mostly drugs, and certainly I fit in that category after years of undercover work in narcotics.
Yeah.
And symptomatically, I think is where your question is you experience a number of things that are debilitating over time. So acid reflux, headaches, inability to sleep, insomnia is very common with officers that have had these problems, joint pain, muscle pain, and just a lot of depression that goes with that too.
Depression, too,
yeah.
huh?
And I think that comes from just feeling poorly. Certainly, I can't speak for every officer, but in my case, a lot of those issues all presented themselves.
When were you aware of Sandra's program?
Well, when the program came to Utah, I was involved with the Utah Narcotics Officers Association. We were one of the early supporters of the program and encouraged our people to go through it. I was also chief of detectives for the state of Utah, and had a number of narcotics officers working for me. So I made time and asked them to look at the program and consider going through it. Some of the early people that went through the program worked for me at that time and had great results.
And the results have been now, for yourself, what?
Well, I feel 20. I can jump over tall buildings, run fast. Actually, it's simple things. It's quality of life issues that really have been remarkable difference. Things that bothered me before, just simply walking up and down stairs. Now I'm playing basketball and racquetball. Ability to sleep more than 3.5, 4 hours. Instead, now I'm sleeping 7, even 8 hours sometimes. So my body has a chance to recover on a daily basis. I think just getting maybe a second chance to have a better quality of life.
Sandra, what are the typical symptoms that a police officer or a veteran might exhibit which would require them to come or encourage them to come to your program?
Well, very early on in the program, we noticed that officers who'd been exposed actually had similar symptoms to one another, and they were different than the general population of officers who'd not been exposed, and they were very prevalent and very serious. Migraines was a big issue, chronic headaches, insomnia, and those are the things that Stu has mentioned. Acid reflux, severe acid reflux, not just mild. And because they were feeling so poorly, they also would then start suffering from depression. Irritability, loss of memory, loss of concentration was a big deal. And the physician who runs the program then really looked at a before and after and compared results. And we found that the average of reduction in symptoms was about 72%.
Wow.
For the officers going through. Now, I'm starting to speak with some veterans now and getting them involved in doing the program, and with them it's a little bit different. It's has to do more with breathing problem, similar to what guys experience at Ground Zero. The burn pits, I think, caused a different kind of reaction. So more insomnia, definitely for the veterans. And just asthma, developing asthma, things like that.
Well, I'm glad your program came to Utah. And I'm glad you went through the program, and congratulations for successfully completing it. And we are going to bring back the Attorney General again, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks very much for having us.
Obviously, this program is becoming very successful. How can America become more aware and support it better?
Well, it starts with a program like this to get people to know that there are heroes across this country, police officers, firefighters, and soldiers who became sick in their jobs protecting us. And I think we owe something back. And so they need to be made aware of the website. They can go and find information out from our project.
Mm-hmm. And you are looking to expand this, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And how are you doing that?
Again, by reaching out. I have been giving presentation to different law enforcement agencies across the country. They are now calling us to find out more about the program. The word is getting around.
Every city in Utah is aware of this program now.
Absolutely, and the word is spreading. We have no trouble putting together a list of officers, firefighters, and soldiers who need help, but we need to be able to treat them, and that costs money, and we need the public's help to do that.
Well, I want to thank you both for being on the program, and from a personal standpoint, I've really rarely met an Attorney General who's so involved with the little people, the everyday people who make not only the government and our safety and security possible, but also you, who are very passionate about what you do, and I want to thank both of you for doing what you do. Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.